Hello and welcome to Delivered. We're here for another episode where we're talking about building exceptional digital products and great businesses. My name is Chris Bradshaw. I'll be your host today. I'm also the Product Strategy Director here at Infinum. And what a day it is today. We have our first live guest sat just opposite me here, which I'm very excited about. His name is Bojan Belgic, which I'm hoping to have pronounced correctly. He's giving me the thumbs up. And he is the Head of Information Security at Microblink. Who are Microblink? They are a global leader in software, computer vision, and they combine software with AI. And essentially, this man is, I can only describe as a cybersecurity warrior, ninja expert. And he runs the cybersecurity and information security at Microblink, building out new strategies, making sure they adhere to compliance, and most importantly, making sure that they actually give the clients what they need in return whilst doing all of this. So he's a very busy man, very exceptional man, so I'm really pleased to have him on the show. Before we get into any questions, we have a Q&A, which I think will be pointing to in the chat box. And if you have any questions for Bojan during this session, please keep them concise and short. And we'll get through as many as we can at the end, time permitting. So, without further ado, let's meet Bojan, let's learn together. Let's go. Hello, Bojan. Welcome to Delivered, my friend.
Thank you, Chris. It was a wonderful, introduction. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here and honored to be here as the first local guest. So
it's great.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's quite emotional, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And also, I'm really pleased you're here as well, because just learning about your world and what you do has brought me kind of hope and fear equally in equal measures based on what is happening in the world right now. So before we jump into that, I think we should just, for the benefit of our audience, let's talk about you. Let's just talk about who is Bojan and how have you become this kind of cybersecurity Jedi almost?
I wouldn't go that far. So I graduated actually in engineering in electronics, and I graduated during the years of financial crisis. So there wasn't much work there in the electronics in Croatia. So I stumbled upon it into IT. And my first job was an system administrator in payments and card business, card industry. So there I started working with security experts and starting doing work with security standards, and got taken into disaster recovery concepts, business continuity concepts, and stuff like that. After that, I worked in an IT audit department in a bank, where I even more gotten into security, privacy, compliance, IT governance, and stuff like that. But ultimately, I wanted to return to IT, to development, to engineering. So I came to Microblink to work as their head of information security. Have been there for like a year and a half now, and I'm really pleased to do this for Microblink, because it's a great company and with a great product. So yeah,
I'd love to just maybe dig in a little bit more. I mean, I sort of mentioned very briefly, it's computer vision software powered by AI, which most things are. I'd love to just maybe explore what that really means.
So
just for the audience.
we are doing software components like mobile SDKs or self-hosted applications that do like document verifications or document scanning by using AI models, so machine learning. And we managed to do that in such an efficient way so that the AI models can be powered and run on mobile devices. And we have been doing that for like 10 years now, and even more. So it's really, really efficient, and even our clients are surprised that this is all run on mobile devices. So I'm really, really proud of the company and the product we have.
Yeah, it sounds super cool actually. And it reminds me, because I used to, back in my years, 20 years ago now, sort of doing IT for my first job and doing system administration and threat prevention. So it feels like the world has definitely moved on much more now. The world is all connected and becoming more and more connected.
Yeah.
And when I was like researching around this, and Influence done some great research on this as well, and it's also the thing that really surprised me and scared me a little bit was this whole thing about the breach that happened earlier this year in January about data being compromised. And I think, it's 26 billion records and emails I have here as my prompter, which for me, I was like, how is that even possible? And the fact our research was saying about the 9.5 trillion in damages across the world, these numbers, I was like, it's so much bigger than I actually thought it is.
And it looked even worse in the beginning, but then the researchers found out that it's just data being sold from various previous data breaches. Some new data was there, but it's still a huge thing. And these kind of data sets of breach data are then after sold to other cyber criminals and criminal groups or state-sponsored groups that use that data to do even worse crimes. So it's a whole.
It's a whole chain of just madness and chaos. I think that's what also makes me think about this. It's more like it isn't just about keeping yourself and your devices and your personal profile safe. I think at the kind of because what I've always realized is like the single point of entry or failure sometimes is the person, and at a business level where you have hundreds, if not thousands of people, this is where we need people like yourself, right, to maintain a level of security framework and just keeping people like aware.
Yeah, but it should be viewed holistically as everything else in the world. And security is not just accounts or data and IT. It's also about human resource security. It's about thinking about procurement and analyzing stuff you buy and you use, and so it's a whole thing connected. It has to be viewed from different perspectives, and only in that way the security will become on a bigger level. That you can be certain then that it's doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking about an example here that I also learned on this discovery of cyber and the attacks and the threats. And a name that came up quite a lot was LastPass. Ironically, considering they are the password protection company. Sorry, LastPass, if you're listening to this, but should we?
And we were a client of LastPass, and LastPass disappointed a lot of people in the world last couple of years. They had a big breach in August 2022, where a hacker stole some source code, some documentation, credentials, and used it to copy customer database, some data, encrypted passwords, but also some stuff that wasn't encrypted. And so they used it to gather more data and even try to break into some other accounts, vaults, and stuff like that. And it all happened just because one DevOps guy from LastPass used his personal computer that was really unprotected, unpatched. And he used it to gain access to some, I'm not sure, was it a test environment or a production environment, and he had like old malware infested program on it, and it took the credentials, and the hackers gained access to all of this data.
It's crazy.
And it was a huge problem. A lot of people.
For like context as well, I'm just looking at the numbers here around this. I mean, I feel like I'm perpetually being surprised every time I read about the implications here. It's like hackers siphoned off 4.4 million worth of crypto from LastPass users in one day. In one day, 35 million total, over 150 victims. That is insane.
And the reputational damage was tremendous. They lost a bunch of customers, and in the end, there came the lawsuits from the people that were directly affected. So it was, a whole bad ordeal.
It's so true. And it's a really good point actually. It made me think about when we're trying to Not so much, I mean, it's not really selling, it's more just advising, because we always try and be like the guide with our customers at Infinum, and it's like, you can pick what services you think you want, but we'll always tell you what we believe is best for you based on your circumstance. And with cybersecurity as a service that we have in SecOps and those other very technical but safety-driven services, it isn't just about like the technicals, like you're saying. It's like, actually, we're trying to protect you from legal repercussions, reputational damage, mistrust from the customers. So really, we may come in at like a technical level, but we're trying to help them at a business consultancy level. So I think that example is, great.
You have to have the trust of your customers, but you also have to have and build the trust from internal, stakeholders like employees, owners of the company and stuff like that, and shareholders. And so you have to think about all of this, together.
It's a lot, isn't it? I think it's just, I mean, if anything, it's trust. Like, it's a very hard thing to, what's that saying? It's like easy to lose, hard to rebuild. And so I think, buying a cybersecurity anything, or at least being aware of it, is so important for companies that scale as well. And I think just looking at like what cybersecurity brings beyond that, I mean, what else can we do? Like, what are the measures, I suppose, and the benefits of cybersecurity beyond just keeping your data safe? Is there any other benefits, I guess, for people watching this that it brings to people?
It's definitely the financial side. The penalties from regulators, that they can be tremendous.
Right. Yeah.
This is the first thing, and the second thing is loss of trust from customers.
Yeah.
When you start losing customers, start losing revenue.
Yeah.
But then in the end, if something happens to the data of your employees, you could have people leaving the company because of that, and not getting new employees, because of bad reputation. Yeah. So it's
significant, isn't it? It's big. Yeah. So I'm just thinking about practicality here. So let's just role play this out with me. I have a shoe company, a global shoe company, right? We'll call it Bradshaw's Boots, right? I have 10,000 employees around the world. It's a big company, great boots. What are the common types of cyber attacks that me as a business owner should be conscious of and could be at risk of?
For once, people are the weakest link, as always. And the most typical entry point for an attacker is the phishing email, because it's the cheapest one, the most common attack. They mostly try to do like a financial scam where an attacker tries to thwart an employee by giving fake account numbers or something like that, or acting like a CEO, trying to make a hasty payment, something like that.
Yeah, got it.
But also these phishing attacks could be used to prepare some carefully planned attack called spear phishing. To steal account credentials. And another also very popular attack tactic right now is to try download or upload malware on people's computers. Malware it's still there. It's still popular. It didn't go away.
Sadly.
Sadly. And the most popular right now are info stealer Trojans. They are trying to also get like account credentials, like tokens and stuff like that.
I suppose it's worth just mentioning the phishing thing as a very baseline level, because all these different things are like more sophisticated version of the phishing acts. And that phishing is essentially when you are given an email or a message that you believe is from something trusted. It obviously isn't, and then I action that email or message and do something or click something.
And that's just the start, and then it starts to build up and build up.
Right. Okay.
And the final part, the most popular and the most lucrative way of attack is ransomware right now. It's really a business, a cybercrime business, and they said that it exceeded $1.1 billion in 2023. And you have these big criminal groups like Lockbit, Black Cat. They target vulnerable computers and servers. to gather, sensitive data,
Yeah.
and then extort companies. And nobody's safe. They will attack anybody,
Yep.
especially if they know some companies have money,
Right.
and they will attack, government agencies. They will attack healthcare, hospitals, even
Just anyone.
anyone. So
Okay. Yeah.
it's a big problem.
That's
It's a big problem. Yeah.
That's it really sort of puts things into perspective that is the level you're dealing with as well. It's
Yeah.
like if you're perceived to have any value, that could be leveraged as,
Yeah.
and ransomware almost sounds like it could be a movie as well, right? The ransomware attack or whatever, but
Yeah.
a really bad movie maybe. But I also want to talk a little bit about, so they're the types of attacks, they're like, a sliding scale of attack. It wouldn't be a conversation delivered, I don't think, without at least mentioning AI. Because every single thing in the world at the minute, especially in this year, has an AI component to it.
Yeah.
How does that apply to this equation? Because I see it as like the hackers, you have the black hat and the white hats, and it's like AI can be used for good, but it can also be used for amplify terror in a way.
Definitely.
Where do you see AI in this equation?
I mean, AI helps every kind of business, and it also helps cybercrime business.
Of course.
But it also helps people like me.
Yeah.
that are trying to fix stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah. People in cybercrime, they are using generative AI to write better sounding phishing emails.
Yeah.
They are trying to make fraudulent phone calls,
Yeah.
even fake videos.
Yeah.
So this is used to make some sort of financial fraud,
Mhm.
usually,
Yeah.
but it can be used for anything. And we also had proof of concepts that tools like ChatGPT was used for writing malware.
Yeah.
So it's not that sophisticated to attack maybe computers and servers at the moment, but there are like low hanging fruit in operational technology, in Internet of Things.
Yeah, right.
So even FBI is trying to get us aware that these tools are being used at the moment.
Yeah,
for that,
it's. I would say that topic as well as this topic together
Yeah.
are the two most exciting and concerning ones I've come across when we're doing Delivered. Is where it goes. I suppose and what makes me think about a little bit is the recent research Microsoft and the Asian engineering team have been producing, where it just really real videos of people now where they can feed it a still image and it looks completely like a human being. That makes me wonder how easy is it to replicate someone's face to prove verification, authentication, etc., etc.
And my company is doing that. We are trying to
Well,
toward it, and we have really great results in that. And we are using AI to spot out AI and fake stuff. Yeah.
I've noticed that at the minute. One of my favourites, says a lot about me as a human being, when I see posts or maybe even blogs, which is clearly been written by AI. You have that sixth sense, and then they've also got AI detectors now, so you put it in there and it's 80 to 100%. So I'm like, come on, you've just done that, fine. I get it, people need to do that, but I guess that's a real life thing now that will have to continue on forever, continuous new innovation to do cyber threats, but cyber protection. It blows my mind a little bit how much and how fast this is moving. I suppose just talking about, on the level of cyber attacks and things like that still, to stay in this dark region of pain, what are the most recent ones in recent years that you know of? Because I'm a big believer, even if it's happened and it's been bad for the world, we can learn as a species from that to adapt and again keep this endless battle of good and bad.
Definitely, and this is especially true for the security community. We need to share more information about incidents happening to other companies, especially similar to you that are using the same tech stack. There were attacks and breaches all over from health industry to government. But for us, for me especially, coming from software developer company, to me the most interesting is the problems happening to similar companies.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest learning point was the LastPass incident, but also similar is the Equifax incident that happened a couple of years ago. So the cyber attacks are most painful to the companies that are dealing with security and trusted services, because customers lose their trust in those kind of companies.
Yeah.
And don't want to use their services anymore. But there are also in the security community, the biggest spotlight is on not on data breaches, but on supply chain attacks, because these kind of attacks can have effect on a huge base of companies, and state-supported APT groups, the cybercrime groups that are funded by the governments.
Yeah.
And they have the most resources, and they want to use target to the most widely used software, like open source, like software used in development. Circle CI, Atlassian had incidents in a couple of past couple of months. They also target software used in service provision, like Okta. They had a big incident a couple of months ago, and their incident overflowed to Atlassian.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's all connected. Yeah. And their example, like Atlassian's example and Okta's example, that's a great example where how cyber attacks like that should be disclosed to the community.
Yeah.
To help us prepare ourselves better for similar events.
Yeah, it's a good question. I always think about that. It's like, at what point is it right to share this information? And of course, like you're saying, the more we can share as company to company, the better we can be as a community to prevent and wrap our arms around protecting ourselves. But it's not always in the interest of the company, driven by company trust, shareholder value, to disclose that. It's really interesting how that happens. And I believe what you're saying, like we should be more open source and we should be doing that. And I think half the people in the world would do that, the other half might not, which is just the human nature, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Unfortunately, we can't change that. But what we can do, at least here right now in this conversation, so we talked a lot about what has happened and what can happen with great examples of big companies. So going back to, I guess, my weird little boot company, if that was to be attacked and had a threat, and say I'd employed like Microblink or Infinum or someone as a partner, and we say, hey, business owner, we can see something's happening. What is what's the first steps you would start to take, I think, if you were to be flagged as a threat and it's maybe compromised something? Where does that start as a business owner?
I mean, you see strange things happening. You see strange emails. You see strange use of your accounts.
Yes.
Something like that. And it becomes the worst when you see something is missing or something is unavailable, or you can't reach a disk or a server or something like that.
Right.
And then it becomes a real problem. But it's really important that all companies have like incident management trainings so they are aware and prepared to do what are the steps they need to do if something like this happens.
Yeah, definitely. I always think about what you said before about it's a people first problem, essentially. That's the highest impact. And I think about these big corporations where you could have high-ranking individuals in that corporation who could be then imitated in some way, sending a request to a lower-ranking officer in the business with a really hard urgency, like do this thing right now. And by the nature of someone wanting to please their boss, they're like, yeah, okay, I'll just click the link, I'll do the thing. I guess that's the thing people need to be aware of if something is happening like that.
And this happens every day.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe it.
I can imagine.
Every day.
Yeah, it's like pretend
Yeah.
whatever, VP,
Yeah.
CEO, whatever, saying to someone, just do this thing, which
Yeah.
is quite often.
Pay this company this amount of money. It's urgent. You have to do it right now, or the
Yeah.
company will, stop existing.
Yeah, so I guess the first level of protection is just, well, awareness
Yeah.
and a little bit of skepticism as a human being to go, why am I even doing this? Why would, maybe that's the first phase of everything, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
And I guess, it wouldn't be a conversation about security and about regulation creeping in. I know regulation sometimes can feel a bit like, isn't that a governmental thing?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not, is it? It's actually a bit of both.
Especially in Europe, EU likes
Yeah.
to impose regulation for everything.
Yeah.
But I think in security, regulation is really, really important, and standards are really, really important. And regulation is also a lever to raise awareness in some way, especially for the stakeholders that are deciding on things.
Yeah.
And especially if you point them to the hefty fines, then they then start investing a lot of money and resources in stuff like security.
Yeah.
And I think we should have more support in our cause, and more resources and more people doing stuff to get on a better security.
Yeah. It's almost like a mandatory service that really, in everything you build, it should just be a line item, like there must be some cybersecurity of some sort put into whatever it is, whether it's a product, a service, an automation, whatever. And it's a big thing that we're trying to really educate both our new clients and existing clients here at Infinum is like, it really is a mandatory thing that you should be aware of at the very least, have a conversation with us about it.
Yeah.
And of course we do free audits, things like that for people, but yeah, it just makes sense to have it now, doesn't it? Because it's getting more and more sophisticated.
No, it's not just sense. You really have to have it. You need to have it. And there is so much regulation right now. We already have the DORA and the NIS2 directive that is affecting like finance, government, utility, and service providers.
Yep.
And now we will have Cyber Resilience Act in the EU. That will be a directive that will require software developers that provide code for devices that are connected to internet.
Yep.
To have some security standards and do like security in all of the steps in the software development life cycle. And think about security in all of the things you do. You really have to start thinking about it, and not just thinking about it, doing something about it.
I know what you mean. It's like ideas are kind of cheap, so to speak, as is, I suppose, talk in some respects. It's like action's what really matters. And I guess if we've looked at things that have happened in the past, we've looked at what's going on right now in the world, maybe to look to the future a little bit, like what sort of trends are you seeing in cybersecurity? Is there like a trend business owners, executives should be aware of that they can start to explore if they're keen to do something after hearing this particular conversation?
So in IT and especially in software development, we have started using IT in 60s, 70s, starting writing code. And we have started thinking about security like in the 90s. The good old days. My role didn't even exist like 15 or 20 years ago.
Yes.
So things are starting to change and are starting to change for the better, but it's a process. And I would say that especially in the software development industry, the biggest thing at the moment is security by default and security by design.
Interesting.
And even the regulation, as I mentioned, is pushing us there.
Yep.
So the EU's Cyber Resilience Act, US CISA, the government agency for IT infrastructure, released their own guidelines for security by design. And I think that's the biggest trend there, because they want us to shift the responsibility from the users, the clients, to the companies that are providing the products.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? How it's like an accountability game, really, as well. Because where does it start and stop? And I guess the reality is, it needs to be everyone has a piece of that journey to make it. Otherwise, it's just going to again find a point of entry where it all falls down, and you get another example, last past, etc., etc. So. And that's a trend, but in terms of things like, I always, you hear terms of cybersecurity, things about, SecOps and penetration testing and things like that, it's like, and these are just words that I guess if you illustrate in the business, you're like, what does that even mean? So like for me, like what does that mean? Let's talk about penetration testing, for example, and maybe some common like frameworks or methods that you see. What are the practical things to help people understand that really from a business point of view?
So first of all, you need to understand your products, what your company does, and what are the biggest risk. You have to start with a risk assessment, and a penetration test is great to check the risks. What are the risks of your product, and especially if that product is something that's online, like an API or a web page or a web app, or
expose almost,
expose something that is exposed, or some app. And especially if it's dealing with some confidential data or private data, that's the most valuable data right now. And you have to start there, and you definitely need to use any method there to make your product safer. And penetration test is a great way to do that. And it has to be done by an external provider, somebody that's independent, somebody that's not burdened with your viewpoint.
Maybe like Infinum potentially.
Someone like Infinum, definitely.
Maybe,
because it needs to have a fresh set of eyes. Seeing that. And then somebody like that will try to see all the nooks and crannies where you can take something that you shouldn't have, or get into something that you shouldn't have, and stuff like that. And it's not something. The best practices are that you do it with every major release. When you do a bigger change or start using something new, implement some new technology, but you definitely need to do it also periodically, because sometimes you forget what are all the building blocks of something, and you need to periodically reassess. Okay, is this building block still safe? Or is it starting to rot? So
like a house metaphor almost. I got it. Okay.
And you really need to do it, periodically, and as often as possible. And it's the same with penetration testing, vulnerability scans, code reviews, code scans. The more as much tools you can use, your security posture will be better.
Absolutely. It's almost like everything has to be accountable across the board, isn't it? It's like the people, the technology, the process, which is why you probably need that partner to just really guide you through it, essentially. And also, I imagine, it's a rhetorical question, because I know there is an answer to this that has lots of abbreviations, but I also want to ask you about like standards, because obviously you hire someone to come and help you with your business. They give you independent advice, they guide you, look around, find the flaws, help you fix the flaws. But then there's obviously standards in place, and I've got a list here of so many to even know off the top of my head. ISO 27001, SOC 2, PCI DSS financials, and HIPAP in healthcare. There's probably even more than that, I imagine, but so someone who isn't in this industry essentially or understands that abbreviation, it's a lot, isn't it? So
it is a lot.
Yeah, what is the importance of these standards in the industry for business owners to?
Yeah, but the standards for me are great because they are done but by industry people that are in that business in that area for a lot of time. They are experts, and these standards have been improved year over year. And I especially like ISO standards, and I feel that ISO 27001 is a really great standard, because it's not just for IT company. It can be applied to any company there is. And it can be done in as much as detail as someone wants to. And it's a good standard that can be used to protect information, protect availability, protect data. So I really love that standard. Another really very popular thing right now, I would even call it a buzzword, is the SOC 2, and it's mistakenly known as also a standard, but it's really a standardized way of writing reports or conducting audits and writing reports. And it's also focused on security and privacy and handling data. And it's a good report. It's a great report, but when something like a buzzword comes to the open, into the light, then it becomes like a thing that's thrown out, and people just compliance department of various companies just ask, do you have this SOC 2 report? Can you give us that? And they just do the complete the checkbox, and they do nothing with it. And I think that's the whole. It's a bad concept. You have to check. Is this something that really suits me? Is this even affecting my the business or the services I'm getting from this company? You need to reassess the things that are in the report.
So it almost feels to me like, cybersecurity, I'm trying to put this in a really neat package, because there's so much to package essentially. It's definitely not just a journey, because you don't really end the journey. It's a circular, ongoing mission where there's checkpoints at all points in the circle, which goes from people, process, framework, standards, technology, and then back round again. Which is why really, when you're in the art of running companies that have anything to do with digital, I think my video this morning just talking about our talk today was like, do you use the internet? You do. You probably need to use some sort of cybersecurity, something in your life. So so basically be accountable, keep that accountability going and flowing, keep education flowing, open source where possible. Even if you're a company that's been breached, open source and talk about it. There's a lot there to package, isn't there? A lot.
There is a lot, and the biggest thing, and I think this event is great to also raise awareness, and you have to start thinking and doing things regarding security right now. Or even better, a couple of years ago. And that way you will get to a point where you're good at sooner.
Absolutely.
And everybody, everything is at stake right now. Everybody is vulnerable, and the more controls you apply, the better. So,
absolutely. That's it. That's almost like, it's like a final thought to the conversation, but with a thought of like, not fear, but a little bit of like apprehension. Like, start something now. At least asking questions and exploring this. That's where good practice starts. Okay.
And companies should have like a designated employee that or an external partner that is focused only on security and privacy, because people need to have this in focus and not some internal processes like service provision or how is IT working and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
People need to be focused just on security.
I always think about it like in a real life situation, like insurance. You never want to think about it or talk about it, but unless you have it, and then when you need it, you really need it. And this is obviously magnified tenfold, I'd say. So we've got a lot of questions coming through from many people, which is, we'll try and get through as many as we can. So I'll just casually read them out to you,
Sure.
and then we'll see where we go with this, okay? That's the best way. Okay, so the Q&A. So we have one here from Mikhail. Thank you, Mikhail, for the question. How critical will the role of a Chief Information Security Officer, that's CISO to those in the industry, become for an organisation in the future? What will their job be? So how important is a CISO in the future to organisations, and how will that job evolve?
Yeah, I think it should be more and more important in especially big organizations dealing with data, dealing with services that need to be available all of the time. And now everybody wants all of their services to be available nonstop.
Yeah.
And people rely on data more and more right now. I think a CISO should become a really important part of the company.
Yep.
And a proper stakeholder there,
like a seat at the table almost.
Because every aspect of the organization should have some concern about security. You can't rely just on IT. You can't rely just on anti-malware software and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have to think about it, as I said in the beginning, holistically.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's quite interesting, because that links to another question I've been looking at here, which is, how do you assess the effectiveness of your organization's cybersecurity measures, and what metrics do you use to measure success?
Yeah, and that is a good question, and that is $1 million question.
It's not mine, I'm just the messenger, but yeah.
But continuously having internal audits, risk assessments, external audits, and as the person mentioned, having concrete like key indicators, like affected computers, affected accounts, phishing emails, trying to see if your company is maybe being targeted or not, having like DOS reports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So every possible number you can have, so you can measure trends. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a pretty good way to look at it, because I wouldn't personally even know where to start. So I guess it's an iterative process, like all this. It has to be done. I mean, I think we could probably do one more question if you've got the energy for it. Sure. I know we've kind of gone through quite a lot of things here, but I feel like we can do one more. Okay, could you share some insight into your approach to risk management within the organization cybersecurity framework? It's a big question.
So risk management and risk assessment is also a tricky topic, because you have all this bunch of methodologies, and again, I like the ISO methodology for the risk assessment. But the most important thing for risk assessment is start doing it. Start doing it. And the more iterations of risk assessments you do, you will get better and better in it. And in the end, you will adapt the methodology to your organization, what suits you best. And another important aspect of it is doing threat modeling for if you are a software developing company, doing threat modeling in the risk assessment process.
Interesting. So the moral of all this really is just get started. Don't ignore it. Even if it's just asking questions. Start yesterday. Stop listening to this show. I'm just going to do something right now. I think I will straight after this. I feel like I need to. So do that. Be accountable. Be open to sharing awareness and education with your team, your people, maybe even the world if you can. And just start. So start and try not to get too lost in the chaos that is out there, because there's a lot.
It's a lot.
But at least you're doing something to prevent that. Okay. Yeah. I feel quite educated. My head's kind of exploding a little bit from the education. But look, Bojan, thank you so much for coming on Delivered. It's been great to have you on and to just go through this world of cybersecurity, cyber threats. It's been great.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a wonderful experience. You're a great host.
Thank you very much. Well, our first live guest, so thanks again. And We'll speak soon. Thanks so much. Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to everyone. Our first live guest, Bojan, great guy. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today to basically just learn about this cyber world. My mind is blown a little bit, but there's some good news, don't worry. So what we offer at Infinum is a free 30-minute evaluation of your business, and I would really like to just read out just a few points that we can help you with if you have needs. And this is no obligation. There'll be somewhere in our chat, we'll put a link where you can just basically go on there, sign up, one of our experts will get in touch with you. They'll help you with things like pinpoint vulnerabilities, evaluate risks in your business, information assets they'll look at, how to strengthen your defenses, all the things that we just talked about with Bojan in this conversation. And hopefully they can help you with your cyber defense. So check that out. And also just one last final thing, if you want to sign up to our newsletter, infinum.com/delivered, you can find all the latest news, the next guests, and even go back in time and see all our previous shows and keep learning about this digital world that we all live in. And with that being said, that's a wrap. I've been Chris Bradshaw. This has been Delivered. Thank you all for joining. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. See you soon.